morning, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday, February 12th edition of City Life. My name is HILLARI WENNERSTROM, and I'm honored to be sitting here early this morning with Lowell City Councilor ERIK GITSCHIER. So good morning.
Good morning.
And also a very warm welcome. He had the seats warm for us this morning. Our producer, John McDonough.
I do have
Thanks, Hillary. Linda would love to be here, but she's not feeling tip-top.
Yes, she called me yesterday afternoon.
She
Said
told me
we'd
I
come
needed
on
to
in.
be here, and she took the day off.
Yes.
You know, it's like Mr. McDonough. You know, we talk about street plow and everything. When I got out of my car, there's all ice in his driveway, and I almost fell. And you were the witness.
Yeah.
So, you know, Mr. McDonough,
you
we
put that
have to
ice-
do better in those parking spots.
We put that ice there for you, Eric.
I was going to say, he left the ice for his family.
Eric, how are the snowbanks in downtown Lowell?
You know, I asked that question to them yesterday about, we have $1 million snowplow fittings for the front of the, this snow blowers for the front of the loaders, and I haven't seen them used in 2 years, so I said, well, why are we not using them down there? So that's the whole,
Are there some intersections that are questionable? I know pulling out of my driveway is a little questionable, but
Downtown Lowell, since I was a little boy, the city, first day after the storm, would get rid of all the snowbanks. We don't do that anymore. And do you really think the new Enterprise Bank is going to stay down there?
I always looked at the offset in the downtown stuff, because when you look at the housing, they have to pay for their parking down there in parking garages. So I always looked at the offset as, we do the snow removal down there, so one hand washes the other, kind of to the homeowner practice. But when you're not doing that either, you're looking back and saying, geez, what are we doing wrong? Because, and I get the long hours for the DPW, but at some point that has to be an expectation that push it off, snow blow it in, get it out of here. The DPW is a different DPW than we had. You know, when you see the snow out, you see plow contractors with loaders and trucks plowing and everything, and you see the city trucks with just their salters on their front plow blades, not even on the trucks, and I don't understand that. So
Do we know how to put them on?
I think that might be a problem.
Did Lowell experience, like so many other communities, where they didn't get enough subcontractors for plowing? I know you drive through some places and you see they're still looking for plow drivers at this point. I mean,
No, I think you're right, but again, all that does is extend the length of the time. It doesn't mean do the streets narrow it so you can get to more streets. It means extending, so your mains, your hills, your schools, that stuff normally is first, and then your side roads start to get back. But it doesn't mean you don't widen them. And when you look at some of the roads, they haven't been widened at all. And I get those calls and send them over, and I feel like I'm always bothering somebody when you're calling over, because you're routinely doing it, because residents will reach out to you because they feel as though you'll call over after they've called. You know, snow plowing is tough. People work long hours, they get frustrated, especially when there's less employees. Now the employees that do show up have to do more work, and they stay longer hours, so it does take a toll on them also. So you have to find that balance. But we should start, like when I ran the highway equipment and drains in another community, we started locking in contract, usually a year early, and we do a 3-year contract with all of them, so that they're always there. And if they don't show up, they're responsible for whatever the cost is to replace them.
wow, that sounds like a good deal. Because I know, I've noticed since my street went from being plowed by a subcontractor to now being plowed by a town truck, and I'm not sure why. I have some speculations, but, it is like one of the last streets done, I feel like. And I understand that, but, I feel like you go and clean everything off only for that wide truck to put it back at the end of your driveway. And if you happens to be the middle of the night when they come through, you got a frozen mound at the bottom of your driveway.
Yeah, and that's the important thing, is to get it off the road as soon as it starts getting in your driveways, because that's when the melting power is there. Because once it hardens, it's very hard to, they say it's 3 times the amount of salt to get rid of ice than it would be to put the salt down before the ice and put it as a brine so it actually reacts. So that, we went through those classes probably 14 years ago, and we started implementing that in another community, the brine system, which it keeps the layer underneath the snow
Yeah.
from bonding.
So, Mr. McDonough, you might want to address that ice issue before the coming storms. I think we've got 2 or 3 of
Yes,
them
Your
on the way.
Highness.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the blocks on the roof. It's going to melt away, so don't worry about it. By April, it's gone. Don't worry, Don.
Yeah, don't worry about it. April's coming.
April's, yeah. You knew we were going to do that, right?
I'm okay with it. I'm okay. I can take it. I can dish it out. I can take it. I don't hide behind a rock.
Whoever's doing his snow plowing's in trouble now. His poor son.
So last night I'm watching the city council meeting, and watching you ask about the Heinz Tavern project, and they let you talk, and they let Corey Robinson talk. Then they shut you down. I'm saying, oh boy, I never thought, but this developer must be connected. That's my takeaway right now.
Do you, what's the guy's name?
I have no idea. I met the guy, nice guy. I know his lawyer, nice gal. The architect was there, all nice people, and just trying to make a buck. And I'm trying to make a buck too. I got no problem with it. And I just don't like that 80 people are going to move into that building and there's no parking.
I think there's a conflict between the neighborhoods and,
Not fair to the neighborhood. It's very congested here. We love it the way it is. It's a nice neighborhood. But if you pay $200,000 for a condo and they're going to cost more than that, or you're renting someplace for $2 or $3 grand a month, you just assume I'm going to park right outside the building. You're not going to be parking at the depot, and these people are not going to park in the depot. They're going to park in front of my house.
there's no way. Yeah, there's no way they're going to park in, they're going to walk over there. And as much as we look at it, you know, when that whole MBTA communities thing came up, we were giving an ordinance that outlined the goals and everything of DPD, and that the one of the highlights to it was up to 1 space per unit. So when this thing came through, I'm like, it was up to 1. Why didn't we require 1? Because in the ordinance, it says up to 1, and that was our requirement, was up to 1, not, we couldn't say you needed a half, you couldn't say 1, so they gave 1/3, 39 units with 13 spots, and I'm like, how do we come to 1/3?
Well, Monday night, I'm out to dinner with one of my friends, Phil Tebow, Draketeer. And so they're building like 400 units out there in the middle of nowhere. And just because of the railroad MBTA thing. I says, Phil, you don't require parking? He says, no, we require 2 parking spaces per unit. And I says, well, how is it you require 2 parking spaces and Lowell doesn't any? And Lowell, the city of Lowell, adopted a different version than Drake it did. And they're like,
Well, is it because it's the city? Is it, you know, I would assume at a minimum, you always need 1 parking
no,
space per
Hillary,
unit.
it's all about revenue. I said to the chair of the zoning thing that I did go to, it wasn't the zoning board, it was the appeals board. And I'll have to look it up what the real name of the board is. And so we had
Planning.
a pretty good discussion. And I said, I understand now, it's all about revenue. And the chairman of the board said, you got that exactly right. It's all about getting the city more tax money. For those 39 units, the city's probably going to enjoy $1 million in taxes. Love it.
If they dropped it to 38, they would lose whatever that value is.
But there's still not 38, look, if there's room for 13 cars, you can put 13 units. That's it.
Well, I guess I've never seen a house in a suburb that has less than 1 car in it. You know, even if they're, you know, an elderly or a family with young children, there's always multiple cars in a driveway these days. So to require anything less than, you know, what the households, or in this case, the building apartments would be, if any less than 1, simply doesn't make sense. Nobody, you know, nobody takes public transportation, and everybody needs a car.
There's gonna be bicycle racks, and look, nobody's riding a bicycle, nobody rode a bike here tonight.
Well, and that was always my argument too, when we were talking about, you know, MBTA's and this mixed use, and we wanted to put, you know, we wanted to create these kind of villages, which I have a fondness for when I'm down south. I don't see that concept especially with a winter like we've had in New England. I don't see it happening. You know, I see my neighbor get his trash can thrown in the back of his car as he's coming up because he doesn't want to walk down the driveway in the freezing cold and ice. So I don't see it, but I know there was a few things for the MBTA communities last night on your agenda, Eric. Was there not?
Yeah, it wasn't really, I had filed a motion to ask what the traffic plan was now that you're building something at the end of the connector where we've had really bad accidents, and we've been talking about rotaries over there and how to, you know, the traffic calming issues. So what is the plan now that you're putting 39 units there? And when we look at that MBTA communities, if we go back to the beginning, this was rolled out by the administration to the council. And at the time, we all read through, and basically what it said, it said that building, it was by right. But what that meant was you didn't need the setbacks and stuff like that, and you could go up to a certain level. Well, DPD, and, you know, we always have to rely on people who are the experts in telling us, and supposedly know the community, and
Well,
know
the
the
supposed
district.
experts, right? They're not
But,
always the
and they're the
experts.
ones who are supposed to analyze the issues in the districts and come up with plans that are the best for our community. And they came to us with a new overlay district, which was called the Lowell Multifamily Overlay District for high-rise. And within that, that's where it comes to the point where John's talking about. It says parking at a rate of up to one space per dwelling unit may be provided. So at that point, they were talking about the walking distance to the train station because then they could go that way, but it has to be ADA compliant within the 1,200 feet of it, which it's not to this one development. And I guess I don't know who that's on. Is that on the city or is it on them to make that ADA compliant? I don't know that answer. But the up to one was a point that I thought that we could determine you need one during the process, but now they're saying, no. That's up to the developer to say they only want to put in, they can put in none or up to one and still meet the requirements, which that to me needs to be revisited.
So is parking going to be deeded in the either rental agreement or sale
HOA?
of the unit, so that I come in and I buy mine early on and I say, I want 2 spaces, when they haven't even provided up to one for every? Does that bump somebody down the road off from getting a parking space? Or
My guess is,
they're just going to start parking wherever that they want?
I didn't ask, was not offered, whether it's condo or apartments. Due to the crazy Lowell housing court, no one likes to be an apartment owner anymore because the rules are just not enforced. It's terrible. I went to listen to one housing court issue, and what happens is, as the apartment owner, your lawyer holds you in a headlock while the lawyer for the tenant beats the daylights out of you. And that's the way housing court goes. Oh, so very few people want to get into the apartment business. So I think it's going to be condos. So when you buy a condo, there's parking space out front. They're $5,000 a piece. How many you want? Well, they're $10,000 a piece. How many you want? I have a condo down at Happy Hampton Beach. I can buy as many spaces as I want. They're $21,000 a space.
How many do you have? That
2.
comes with it
2.
before you have to pay the 21,000?
Well, I'd have to buy it from my neighbor. There are none left.
So when you bought yours, you had a certain deed?
I got two spots, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and you know, what happens if you got 13 people who are handicapped, 14 people who are handicapped? What are you going to do?
Right.
Because you have to provide them parking. Now what do? You're going to mark off, so that's where this whole thing comes in, and you're like, I'm not,
So if there's only up to 1 per unit, but you still have to have the handicap requirement, that means you're really probably having like 5 or 6 units that don't have parking, right? Because you have to have the correct number of handicap, regardless of, you can't say, well, in my up to 1 space, I'm going to get rid of the handicap. That's
see, I don't
mandated.
know that answer. Because
I
they
would
don't-
think that's mandated.
I gotta look through, and I think John has the, or you can pull it up on the planning board, the plans for over there, but I don't recall seeing any handicap spots in those 13, but I'm not sure about that. And one of the major things is, this was pushed forward to the city council saying, if you do not accept this, it jeopardizes our road grants, it jeopardizes all types of grants. In Lowell, like, unlike many other communities, 30% of our tax base comes from the taxpayer. The other 70% comes through grants and state funding. So if someone is pushing that out of it, you're talking a $583 million budget. So if you're talking 70%, you're talking over $350 million. So.
Yeah, I think that's the way the whole MBTA, communities was done, was really a scare tactic. And it was going through at the time I was ending my service. But I do remember that constant, if you don't accept it, blindly accept it as it's presented, or, a few minor modifications, then, you might as well kiss any grant we've ever received goodbye. You might as well do all this stuff. And now you see that, a lot of communities pushed back, and a lot of communities said, this is a mandate. You can't do that.
We should have accepted the bare minimum. Instead, we reinvented the wheel and started putting in different parking requirements, which by right, it just would have sent it back to its original zoning and what the rights were for the parking at that time, which would have required, in this case, 2 spots per unit at least. And that probably would have killed the development down. And that wasn't also the key pieces. When you go over to that area, every house in that area has a green sign in front of it that says that they pay for the parking spot in front of their homes, so now it's condensing it even more. It's going to be worse than the university over there coming off the connector, so. And then, like, say if John wanted to do it in this property, if he did this property over and put a 5-story building on the total property,
Oh,
you
I'd
could
make them
probably
70, I'd make them
1,000
75
units.
stories, no parking needed.
You
We'd
could
have like
put-
the Empire State Building
I
here.
was
could
gonna
put
say, you've got a
1,000
nice big
units.
parking lot over there. You could just charge nightly.
I bet you
Yeah.
you could put 1,000 units on this property
Probably.
if you went back.
Thank you, City of Lowell. Got 3 texts. Respectfully, forget parking. How about the traffic in that area? It's a disaster. And
Well, that's the point,
This
is
guy's
that-
right. The end of the connector, it's very congested over there.
But that's the point, John, right? The parking is going to increase the traffic congestion. That's what my motion was about last night, was saying, okay, what is your plans for the traffic piece over there now that we can't even take care of it? By right, if the state came in and we're going to try to do something that would help, you just cut off the connector so
Well, how
everyone
many
had to
other
take
places
Thorndike.
around the city does the city pull this crap? They're telling me that, I think it was called Fury's Bar over on Fletcher Street.
Yep,
They're going to make that into a multi-dwelling.
yeah.
And the they're going to pull that off too? They're going to knock this stuff off. It's about interpreting the law. The city interprets the law a little differently than everyone else in the city's. I'll insert in the city's favor. They read the law saying parking is not required, even though they put parking provision in the law. Remember, they had a bunch of lawyers at that meeting you spoke at. That's what the old guy said.
See, and that was my question. Why did we even write parking in here if someone has to provide up to? What do we care if they provide over or 0? If we were really writing 0.
And then
that's
the
what my
last
question was.
one, that's why I have this particular shot up. Are you going to ask, John, are you going to ask Badger Mr. Gitschchier over the ski jump on Elm Street? And that's Elm Street we're looking at. Now watch this guy here. You take your coffee cup, you hold it on your other hand, you go over this big gigantic bump in the road, and you move on with your life. And Eric looked into this.
I thought
and
he
it's
said spring. I thought they said spring.
2026.
Is that what he said?
2026.
Or did you just make up that number?
No, 2026.
It was, right? He did say,
2026. Not this year, next year.
well, then they should repair the trench, the collapse or whatever it is. I'll send over. Yeah.
I think I'm on the wrong side of Mr. Golden.
Well, I know all about that. I got put on some committees that being on the wrong side puts you on. This is the State House. But it is what it is. I mean, when you truly think about trying to make the city a better place. I think there's a lot of positive things that have also taken place at the same time, but, what are we going to do after the opera money is the major question.
Well, we can do a lot of good things, and creating a building, I love new neighbors. They're great. Walk around the neighborhood, walking their dogs, all very friendly people. Keith Academy, those people are very friendly people. And I'll enjoy the Heinz Tavern neighbors too. But I just think before they pay 200, 300 grand for a condo, they must have a parking space. That's
Yeah,
all
because
I'm
our
saying.
phones are going to ring, and that's what happens. We put these things in place, someone buys it knowing what they're buying. It's like Tewksbury, when you talk about Tewksbury. People bought around a farm, and then after a year of being there, they complain about the smell of the farm animals. Well, you bought something that,
Yeah, we had an issue a while back too, where people bought into a neighborhood. So it was a single-family home. Some were single-family homes, some were apartments, some were condos, and trash was not included for anybody. So, they got to skirt a number of the zoning laws because they did all this stuff, and some were affordable, some were not. But they didn't get trash pickup. They had to pay an HOA fee for trash pickup. Well, the people that were in these homes, not the apartments, but, the homes and the kind of two-family condo type looking buildings came and said, we pay the same amount of taxes as everybody else. Why can't we get our trash picked up? And, it was clearly right in their deed that no trash services would be provided. And while, yes, they owned the same housing unit as everybody else and paid the taxes on that, they didn't own their land. And so they didn't pay the same taxes that, I paid for my, 9/10 of an acre lot or things like that. And it was a very contentious town meeting. And finally, in the end, they didn't win it over. They had the votes. I'm not sure how they didn't win it, other than maybe somebody spoke a little too long. And that, when somebody goes over the top and speaks a little too long, the tides turn. So they didn't get it. But, people with rational arguments kept saying, when you bought the house, you knew you weren't going to get trash pickup. Well, yeah, but I didn't know everybody else in town was getting trash pickup. It doesn't matter what anybody else is getting.
Well, City of Lowell.
You bought your house and you knew it.
City of Lowell screws the condo owners, and that's something that needs to get fixed, because if you have over 5 units, you don't have trash pickup. Yet, you pay the same tax bill. You subsidize my trash pickup. Now, if you look out front this morning, go to see,
Well, do they really? Because you own a lot of land.
I get 8 barrels here. One for my house, one for my kid's house, one for my other kid's house, and one for the resident who lives over the funeral home. They'll pick up my trash forever because I only have 4. If I had 6, they wouldn't come. What you're looking at here is a beautiful example of the City of Lowell screwing up a neighborhood just because of tax revenue. Here's Roger Street, the bottom of Roger Street, before the Concord River. The car wash is here. Over here, if you look at these beautiful buildings, the city never should have let them build these. They let the developer build all these, and there's not enough parking for these folks. So what they do is they park on Perry Street, because I'm going home. So you drive up to your condo, you drop off your groceries or your pizza or whatever, scoot back out around, and you park on Perry Street. That's what I would do, and I think that's what you would do. And
So
it
where
got
do you go when there's a parking ban and you can't be on the street?
It got so congested, the city had to turn Perry into a one-way street because the firemen couldn't get down the street. And then I also chastised the fire chief. Of course, these are all appointed by the city manager. So if you don't make the city manager happy, he's not going to be happy with you. So the fire chief said the Heinz property, no problem. How the hell are you going to get a truck onto that property?
But if there's an overnight parking ban, where is the nearest parking garage for those people to go to?
downtown.
Yeah, downtown.
And then they're
Downtown.
supposed to walk or Uber back?
Next to the Inn and Conference Center.
Well, what you do is you make a deal with your neighbor. And you bring 3 cars down there, and 3 cars ride back, and 1 stays home. And we work it out, because when we run out of parking here, we take advantage of the city's free parking, and we'll scoot over, we use the Hamilton Canal. We have too much company on the property, and it's gonna snow. We just scoot the cars down there. So look at this. It's quicker to scoot it down there than scrape all the snow off your car tomorrow morning. Yeah, you're right, let's go. 5 minutes, we're back here. Works out good. Because I don't like any cars in my way when I'm plowing.
I guess I've just always been a suburbs kind of person. I like my car next to my house.
Well, if,
It's much like a garage. I have a garage now, so I like to park my car in the garage. You know, I have a lot of neighbors that have garages that don't park their cars in their garage. Their garage is full of other stuff. I like my car in the garage so I can get out and get my groceries in.
but for some
at my
people
own
in Lowell,
convenience.
the dream is to wake up, walk out of my house, 15 minutes to go get my car, and then I go to work. That's my dream.
I'll admit, I'm a suburb snob, I guess. I'll just
I
call
don't want to
myself
talk
out.
about garages because my wife might be watching and mine has old cars in it, so.
Yeah, I was going to ask
And they
that
don't
question on
move?
your.
And they don't move, so I'm not talking about garages.
I did have, a slight incident this past weekend where I was driving, my daughter was home and her car does not go in the garage. Driving down the road and someone called me out on the snow on the roof of her car that I had not cleaned off. And I said, you know what, never thought about cleaning the snow off the roof of a car because my car is always in the garage.
So at the school, we have buses that we take the kids in and out of. They go to sporting events, they go to during the day activities. We have to pull all of them in the garage so that the snow doesn't get on the roof when they leave on the next day or whenever they leave with
Right.
them, so that that doesn't happen and go off and hit somebody. So insurance purposes, which is just a complete pain to move these things
Yeah.
because there's 12, 13 of them.
And you probably have to stack them appropriately, right? Because
do.
they're stacked, parked so that you get the right one on
Eric,
the
you want
end.
to talk about this character?
My lovely homeless neighbor who decides he's going to break into our cars or try. It's the Lowell Police Department, I can't thank enough. They arrested him on the Monday. But that shed over on the right side, he got into that, and that's a neighbor's house. But we got him on the camera, so we were fortunate through the Lowell Police Department. As soon as I made the report and they saw the video, they knew exactly who the person was. So hopefully we can change people. But the bigger issue is the homeless camp at Sheehy behind the DPW area in the MBTA and getting them to clean it up. So we've gone to Senator Kennedy, Representative Elliott, Representative Hung, and Howard, and asked that they push this along because it's making our neighborhoods unsafe. And we're worried about people in our neighborhoods. We have a lot of elderly in the neighborhood. We have a lot of people in the neighborhood who now, when you have somebody lurking in your yard and you see it, people are a little bit taken back by it. And we all know where it's coming from. And you'll get people who say, well, where do you expect them to go? We've offered every service in the world to them. This person basically has been offered everything for years, has been breaking into cars and doing these things, and it's time he either gets help or he moves along. If he does it again, I'm going to take his tent and I'm throwing it in the river. And I'm going to steal his stuff. We're so worried as a society that what are we going to do with their stuff that the same people don't care about our stuff that we've earned. And it is us in them, because at some point when someone starts trying to get into your home and your stuff, it's an invasion of your area too. And I don't think it's right. And John, I'm sure over here you've had those issues too when the camps were at the South Common, that people were walking on your property. Or
We
doing
have
things.
people who would walk to the property and the camp, they're all recorded and they're triggered. Okay,
Yeah.
there's somebody walking there, so it records that, and it sends one of my colleagues an alert. And she loves watching videos. So I get a text, hey, 3 o'clock in the morning, some guy tried your garage door. So I tell the girls, look, you got to put your car in the garage, and your car's got to be locked. It's real easy. Hit that little button, boop, it's locked.
Yeah. Yeah, but the challenge at our house
Everybody
is-
has that problem, Eric.
I heard the ring go off at 12:11, but when you have children and they come in at those hours, you don't really ever,
Right.
you think it's, okay, he's coming home now, okay, whatever, and you roll back over. I didn't realize he wasn't coming home that night, so I'm like, I just rolled over, and in the morning when I rolled back over, my wife's like, did you see what happened last night? And she slides it over, and I'm like, oh, no. And it's not the only time it's happened, and we report it. I think that's the key, is to, if you have a ring or you have a video surveillance like yours, is just call the police and make the report, because you're preventing someone else from going through the same thing, and maybe there's a piece on there that will help them determine. What the courts do with the people, that's something out of our control, but I think as long as we report it, they have an idea. So if someone does break in your car and you forgot, say, something within your vehicle that has value, at least you have an opportunity to get it back, or an opportunity to understand who took your stuff.
My neighbor has a ring cam, but we usually watch it to see, you know, when the bear goes through the front yard, or
That's what I
The
love
deer
about
or
the
coyote.
school. The school at night, those cameras are the best thing in the world. You see the coyotes chasing the deer, and you see all the foxes and everything. It's an amazing thing, and we're thinking about putting apple trees on the outside of it to bring more of the, we're trying to get rid of the geese that way. So if I can get more coyotes and stuff, the geese won't come along, and we can take care of that, because the geese are always a challenge for us.
Some more comments from the audience. It's time the judges in Massachusetts to step up. They're softer than snowflakes.
I would agree 1,000%.
Well, we need to change the law and have the judge be reaffirmed by the community every 2 years to continue to serve the community. Not fire the guy or the gal. But if we don't like the judge, you can't serve this community anymore. You're going to go out to Fall River or something.
John, we have a governor who just closed 3 prisons and cut mental health care, and is cutting
And she's going to get back in again.
and cutting home services to the elderly for health care. And this is the way that people are saying, oh, we're being really humane, but yet we spend our money on other things that you just shake your head at.
Sadly, I tell the younger generation, Hillary's kids, I tell, look, move to New Hampshire. Don't settle in Massachusetts.
Why not stay here and fight and push back?
Who wants to fight? I want peace. I want to elect a governor. I want my governor, my senator, my state rep to act for what's the best thing for the community.
I will say this to you, that New Hampshire is no better. New Hampshire's numbers into the mental health care are completely awful.
Well,
When you
nationwide,
look
we ignore mental illness, nationwide. Let me just blow
New
through
Hampshire,
these
but,
three.
but we just cut it in Massachusetts. We had a number, and now we cut it down. But New Hampshire's is worse. New Hampshire's homeless in Manchester and Nashua would make Lowell look like it had none at all. And when you start looking at these things, and people say New Hampshire, let's take a real look. They say there's no taxes, but there are.
Have you gone to Salem?
Yeah, one area. Have you gone to Lexington? Want to compare?
Have you gone to Salem?
You know, if
I
you're
can't go to
comparing.
Salem because there's not enough parking. Can tell you the 3 times
Yeah.
I've tried to go up to Salem in that beautiful area.
Because before,
There's no parking, so.
the Pheasant Lane Mall was like the pristine place. Now that's fallen down a little bit. I'm
Have
gonna
you
blow
gone
through-
to the Burlington Mall? It's a very
It's
beautiful place.
magnificent. don't believe them at the
Well, the
Cheesecake
new
Factory.
casino is about to, change that in Nashua.
Cheesecake Factory says, we'll have a table for you in 20 minutes. An hour and 20 minutes later, we had a magnificent dinner. Unless the individual wants the help, it's useless to think they'll change. Shut off their ABT card. That's what we should do. All the set of train tracks on the Merrimack Street near the Middlesex Community College used. I've never seen a train on it. Just wondering. I think that's for the Whistler
The trolley.
trolley, I think.
I've never seen them used in a long time.
Well, we had a dream. Remember the dream they were going to have it go from downtown to the train station? And we had the money, had everything lined up, but nobody wanted to manage it.
I remember the UMass Lowell piece where they were going to run a trolley from UMass Lowell's North Campus to the South Campus and run them that way, but that never. And now, they're talking about National Grid just cut us off for their project piece that was going to happen in the parking lot for energy savings, and they just cut us off from that. So it's, we're always in a challenge and looking at investments in the city and trying to make it a better place. But I do think if we went back, and I don't know if John will agree with me or not, but the 80s and early 90s, when I was at the water department, you could go to abandoned houses, and when you opened up the door, there were 30 people sleeping in there on the floors, and drugs everywhere. And so it's nothing new, homeless in inner cities. It's just, what are the services that we offer? How do we get people to take services? And like someone just said, do you cut off certain services that force people to try to get into the services
No,
that
we
you're offering?
subsidize it though, Eric. We subsidize it, we perpetuate this situation. As long as the EBT card works, it's amazing what a little money in your pocket can do. It lets them to continue to be homeless. You shut off their EBT card, things are going to change.
I don't know that it will, because we still have those people who, when they're standing at the corner and have a sign, homeless help, and they're dropping 10s and 20s into the people, and they're making more money than the average person who's actually working, who's close to that poverty line, or is in that poverty line, but they're the average working person in the poverty line. So that's the question. Is it pushing people from actually going to work at certain places that are making close to the minimum wage because they're making more than the minimum wage standing out? If you stood out today, I would guarantee, John, if you dressed a certain way, you would make probably $30 or $40 an hour over at one of the intersections,
Tax-free.
tax-free.
It's a little cold to be standing out there.
But again,
I'll do it.
there's a lot of people who work out in the cold.
On a nice day in June, I'll get us a nice beach chair and sit at the intersection. The Speaker of the House will determine if Maura Healey stays governor. Good angle to look at it? Thanks.
Well, I think when you look at the number of voters today, special interest groups definitely have power because the number is down, but from the average person. So it gives special interests the real big push and power to hold power, and that's what they're doing, as you just outlined.
I mean, I'm not a fan of Governor Healy at this point, just with a number of her policies, but I do think, and Massachusetts has been very supportive of incumbents, regardless of their party affiliation. I don't know that we've kicked out a sitting governor in a long time, have we?
Jane Swift, right, was the only one last
Right.
time? Might be.
Which I have to say, I follow former Governor Swift in some of her second life, and
She's one of my Facebook buddies, too.
she's
I like Jane.
I think she was well ahead of her time. I think somebody like Jane Swift today could do a lot for this state, but I do have a kinship for her. I met her a number of times. Find her.
Yeah, and I didn't mean that in a negative way.
Yeah,
I
no.
think she was just-
You're right. I had forgotten about.
I think she was the last.
She was actually interim. They went through the whole acting. I did not realize we went through a period of interim governors.
Sticking back with the railroad tracks down at Middlesex Community College downtown Lowell, the unfortunate thing about the tracks are if it's not in use, remove them, because every bus that goes over it has to stop, which creates traffic. I didn't know the buses have to stop.
Yes, they have to stop at every railroad track.
I didn't know
If
that.
it's a 7D one with lights, yes.
Speaking of buses, have either of you folks tried the free bus ride?
I have not.
Neither have I.
I have not. I will say the bus stops in Tewksbury are not. I don't mean this in a negative way per se, but they're not at convenient locations.
Well, no, if the bus drives down the street,
So-
you can just wave, they'll pull right over there.
It doesn't come down and you'd have to go down to like the main drag somewhere, and there's nowhere to park to leave your car to get on the bus.
No, you walk from your house, it's the healthy thing.
For me, John, I get up, I go to work at 6 a.m., I don't get home till 6 p.m., so the bus, I don't even use a vehicle, I use it to go to work and back from work, and
I work from home. There's days I don't even.
yeah.
Well, do you have one or two hobby cars?
There's 2 of them right now.
Because I saw the garage that
There's
his
2.
wife's talking about. All the cars are parked outside in the snow when his 2 hobby cars are parked in the garage.
She hates me.
No, she doesn't. She spoils you.
My garage spot is, firmly there.
And, I was thinking the other day, because I saw Meekum online, I'm like, Angela, we got to fly out to Meekum and just go look at the cars. She goes, as long as you leave the money at home. I go, what? No. The application, for interest pieces there, and, but that's the one thing I've always loved was cars and old cars and putting them back together, and
Well, there's a way to, I have too many of those. I got to get rid of some. And it's the same thing with my wife and my sister-in-law. They'll, let's go to the furniture store. Let's go down to Mario's. We're going to buy a new. I said, what are you going to throw away? And the conversation stops immediately.
normally Angela turns around and looks at me and says, what car are you getting rid of? So then
That's
I'm
the
like,
way to
go buy
put it.
your furniture.
That's the way you got to do it.
She's pretty quick on the draw with that stuff. She's like, okay, so when you getting rid of the cars? Because she loves animals and she wants more dogs. And one of the things that we always go back and forth is with that. She's like, well, let's get another dog. I go, I don't want to wake up at 4 a.m. for another dog. And she's like, well, I think it's time to get rid of the cars then. Your hobby's
many
that,
dogs
my
do you
hobby's
have?
this. Just one. But
Oh.
she wants another one, and it's just.
So, Hillary, zeroing in on you, how's things in your life going? You got a new job? You happy here? Not
Yeah,
happy
I've been there almost 2 years, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, it works for where I'm at right now
You
in
working
life.
from home or do you go in?
I do work from home. My company is actually based out of Arlington, Virginia.
Okay.
So I have a nice, when we built an addition on our house, we put a nice little 8x8 office. So I have a nice little office with a nice desk and
Good
spot for the-
communicate, good internet?
I have good internet. The internet connections, modem sits in there. Little bed for the dogs.
Now, how often do you reset your internet?
Probably not enough.
Because mine is on a Christmas tree timer. So every single night, at like 3 o'clock in the morning, it's shut off.
Is that supposed to do wonders for it, or what does that do
It
for
gets
it?
rid of all the electronic cobwebs.
Interesting.
So I just put it on, and since I did that, I don't have any more internet problems.
It's interesting. My son is home for a little bit, and he bought something and had it sent to the house. And I didn't. I don't know that we've said, what it is that he bought. I don't recall. Maybe when the package came, I read the thing. All of a sudden, I am now getting ads for these Ridge wallet money clip things, and I said to him, is there like a honing device on you that the minute you're in the house or your phone, you ordered it from your phone, the internet picked up that you ordered this, that it's now all of a sudden sending me ads like crazy for these Ridge money clip wallet type things. I said, just remember, apparently whatever you're browsing on your phone or the tablet is going to show up on mine. So if you're doing something you don't want me to see.
Whenever I leave here, my iPhone picks up the statements that we talk about, and I get ads for whatever we're talking about. And I'm like, wow. Last time was Windows and opening
Yeah,
Windows.
the computers are like, even if your phone is off, it's still listening to you.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy when you think about it.
So so you're saying you put your router on a timer
Yeah.
and it
The
just
router's right up
reboots.
on top of the piano here.
And it just
It's plugged into
reboots.
a Christmas tree timer, and it shuts off at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning for an hour, and it turns back on again.
John's the only guy in the country that has a piano that he uses as a shelf. Can you play the piano?
No, my wife does, though. My wife and my sister-in-law, they both play the piano. Not too often, but hey, happy wife, happy life.
That's an amazing talent. When someone, Ralph Finaro always amazed me when he plays those. I'm like, geez.
My wife, I'm proud of her. She got her doctorate. Smart chick. Smart chick. My sister-in-law, she only got her master's, so sorry.
She's retired now, though, right?
Yeah, she's retired. She's at Foxwoods this morning.
Why are you here?
I don't enjoy gambling, but she loves it.
So she'll be trying out the new Nash or whatever they're calling it at the Pheasant Lane Mall. Supposedly opening this month.
Well, I took her down to, actually, my wife's down in Fox with one of her best friends, Mary Lou, and Mary Lou Sitkard. She lives in Florida now, so she's up here for a week, so they went down there for a couple of days. Or they went over to Foxwoods for a couple of days. I took her down, Ellen, down to the Encore in Boston. Absolutely exquisite. She didn't like the place. So now we'll see if she likes the place. But she likes to drive. It's away, and so it's good. She gets away. She works too hard.
Yeah,
As a retiree, she works way too hard.
I just saw that they're opening that, and I'm assuming that's just gonna, cause a number of issues. There's already parking, there's already way too many issues on Middlesex down there, with the marijuana shops and other things going on, that adding more,
Sooner rather than later,
Attention
you're going to be
to
able to buy marijuana at your grocery store. That's where it's going. The state doesn't care. They just want their revenue. And if they know, if we sold marijuana at the grocery store, we'd get more money. Let's do it.
well, I sat through, because the job I had at the time, sat through a number of those presentations from the Cannabis Control Commission when they were getting up running, and how it was going to, be a positive impact and on the community in terms of revenue, and met with a number of treasurer and collectors and talked about how that whole tax, was going to be assessed and distributed back to the communities and this and that. To see and heard, these are all the control measures that we have in place because it's a cash-only business and this and that, and we can track everything, from seed to sale and this and that. I find it really hard to believe that there was all those controls in place when there's a sign that says you can't take a left-hand turn out of the marijuana shop on Middlesex Road, and there's an accident to 2 or 3 a day of somebody taking a left-hand turn, and we can't even control them in the parking lot. So
they're
I
high.
have
What do you think they're gonna
zero confidence
If you go up on
that
Roger
we.
Street, we have the same exact problem. Same exact problem.
The other day, there was probably a 3-mile backup down DW Highway with people, pulled over to
What's
try
the
to get
speed
in.
limit there?
It's DW Highway, it's gotta be what?
Oh, you got no
25,
say over
30?
it then. Town has no say. It's got to be 40, 45. Comment from
Well, there's too many lights.
Lowell City Councilor Corey Robinson. Good morning, everyone. The housing first approach is creating some unintended hardships for property owners as well as neighborhoods. You're taking people that aren't incapable of managing themselves, giving them an apartment, providing next to zero support services, and allowing them to turn the property into a drug den or party house.
Yeah, and we've seen that in the city when
Corey,
we
you
looked
got
at Branch
a very
Street.
good point.
Yeah.
They need supervised care. The lodge needs to be changed, and I think the city council has got to invite Ed Markey, Elizabeth Warren, and our Lori Trahan to communicate with taking away their rights. We got to take away some of these mentally challenged, mentally ill people. We have to take their rights away and give them managed care. And also we got to tap our friends over at Tufts, Lowell General. Hey, Tufts, you got a bunch of doctors there. We'll pay you, put everybody in Mass Health, but you're going to handle the mentally ill in Massachusetts because the government does a lousy job with it. The government is here for self-preservation only. They're not here to help you. Oh, the government's here to help. No, they're not. They're here for self-preservation. The most important thing is City Hall's still standing tomorrow. Out in Los Angeles, all those fires that happen, City Hall's still standing. It's all about self-preservation. We need to pressure Tufts to take over the mentally ill issue, but first of all, we have to restrict the mentally ill's rights. And once that happens, we'll be able to take care of this problem. Just give them an EBT card, give them a welfare card, giving them all these government benefits with no strings attached. It's not working. Good point, Corey, thanks.
The government is like the person who pulls up to the red light and hands the person money who says, with the homeless sign. That's all we do. It's a feel-good, in-the-moment thing. And it does absolutely nothing to help anybody. And that's what the government's like. It's a feel-good, let's round up the troops, we'll make people feel good, they'll vote for me, and nothing gets done. There's no accountability at the end. And sometimes people don't like what you have to say, but they can respect the outcomes that happen after the fact. And that's what happens a lot. We talk about it all the time. We talked about the homeless camps over here at Summer Street in the South Common. People are not happy with the camping ban. Will it be empty in the summertime? I can't guarantee that. But we do have metrics in place that prevent things from happening in certain areas. And if we can continue to do that and take real stances and not just feel-good moments, we have an opportunity to change government. But you don't see it here a lot because, I mean, just look at the stronghold a lot of people have in elections. Like Hillary said, you know, the incumbents have a extreme power. And why would a young person run for an election when they can get hired by the person who does get elected as their friend? And everybody knows that the path to some employment is through that means, and why would you put your name on a ballot when you can make more if you just know the person who's on the ballot? I haven't gotten paid. I've given back $100,000 in salary. When you look at other people here, they get paid $25,000, which isn't a lot of money. When you look at the time it takes to go through all of this stuff. But when you see the positions that some of their friends got, it's a hell of a lot more than that $25,000. And their input to those positions is strong because of you put the person in there, you owe me, so here's how we're going to do business, rather than do the business for the people. And I think you can see it over and over and over again. We just keep repeating the same thing, and it gets tough for government to actually be efficient that way. Last night we had a report on an elevator, and the motion was a very simple motion by Councilor Belanger. It said, request city manager update the council regarding handicap chairlift access at the Bartlett School. We get a report back that there's 70 elevators, and it gives you this whole thing to why we can't be efficient. So once you look at it, I asked the question. I said, okay, now that you outlined how many elevators you have and everything, tell me, and they're 30 years old and everything, tell me what your capital plan is. Well, we're developing one. Oh, you're developing one because Councilor Belanger put in a motion asking about an elevator. Prior to that, you had no thought of a capital plan on elevators?
Eric, he's developing one starting today, because you asked.
Exactly.
He didn't do it
Isn't
last
that
week.
reverse roles, John? That was my point, John. Isn't this reverse roles? We wonder why things fail because we have blinders on. As long as something isn't in the eyesight of somebody, we have no vision that it's going to need to be replaced. 30 years of neglect to them. And now I said, I would love to see these inspection reports, because how many are broken right now? And he said, oh, just that one. And then I turned and I said, are you sure of that? Because I have information from other people that say that there's more than that one broken. So today, I will provide him with the information to the other ones and say, right across the street, I got a text, not even 20 minutes after, they say that the one at the STEM Academy's broke. So I'll go ask before I leave here and just go over and say, can I ask you a question? Is the elevator broke over here? You know, so why should city councilors have to do this piece? And they say,
Because we hire our friends. Look at, lovely Lowell, people laugh, but they agree with me. So we need somebody to be in charge of the computers. And a relative of a city councilor says, hey, I used to run the cash register at Radio Shack. Perfect. You got the job. Look, she's got a background in computers. And besides that, she's related to a city councilor. That's what the city's been doing for generations. And, you know, when you hire a bunch of people who aren't qualified to do the position, it's not good. Okay, so we got some text here I'm going to blow through. Thank you for your comments. What did it cost the city to clean up behind Duncan's at the end of the Fletcher Street and the homeless encampment? Do not know. Moving right along, Ed Marcula and Chief Warren are too busy fighting Dodge to care about Massachusetts. Interesting opinion. Corey Robinson chimes in and says, a perfect example are the methadone clinics. They don't wean anyone off. They become lifelong customers, zero accountability. Thank you,
and Corey's 100% right. And we're talking right now, in the city of Lowell, we banned Kratom. And we're going to try to get to the town of Tingsboro, but we're at, right now, we did Drake it, and we're working on Chelmsford right now with Holly Truville, who lost her son to it. And you're watching across the country as this natural, it has an effect of an opioid. And as it's taking over kids' lives and they're drinking it in a regular energy drink, we need to do things like that because, as Corey just outlined, it's just another mechanism for another addiction.
It goes away very simply. You go to the health department, and the question that they have to ask on their milk permit, do you sell Kratom? And if the answer is yes, you don't get your milk permit.
someone will get you with discrimination, John, but I think there are
Fine,
legal
we'll see,
ways.
we'll see you in court.
Yeah, yeah.
We have to stop being afraid of, we're going to get sued.
Yeah, well, we did it the right way in Lowell. We actually went to the health board. They
Took too
voted
long.
that way. Then we went.
Lowell takes too long.
I think all the government. You know, we're talking.
The speed of government, yes.
We're talking about rodenticides and killing predators from eating mice and everything. And right now, it's taking so long. There's 2 bills down at the State House that are just hanging out. And so we're asking we're asking that they move them forward quicker, because you're going to save the bald eagles
Well, we have
and stuff like that.
Meek Vanna Howard. She's not going to do it. Tara, Brian's making new kid. He's the new kid in the house. He can make it happen. And Rodney Elliott, he's a tiger down there. And I guess they're not, I don't know if he's fitting in well down there, not fitting in well down there. But those 2 guys, between Tara Hung and Rodney Elliott, they can make it happen.
Senator Kennedy jumped right on and called me and said, you know, we're going to push it. He co-sponsored a bill with Rodney Elliott, as you
I
outlined.
gotta call Ed Kennedy, because there's rumors floating around about Ed, and I'd rather get it from his mouth. He doesn't make up stories.
I don't believe a lot of the rumors that are going around. I've
Well, I
heard
got his
them.
cell phone. I just, I'm on the road a lot. She just, hey, Ed, how you doing? And he's always glad to come in, so I should get once they get rid of the ice in the parking lot, Eric, I'll get Ed to come in.
Maybe you can call the city and say it's their property.
No, there's too many cameras.
Do you have a friend?
Well, if you don't know somebody in Lowell, you're not going to get anything done. Did you really
I mean,
think?
I don't believe that, because now
Do
it's
you really
social-
think the Heinz's thing would have hit the skillet that it hit last night if
it wasn't for you and Mike's
wasn't,
name and that.
connected people?
No, I would agree with you. Probably would have never even came to us. You know, and it's because of people like you.
Like
and
Perry Street. Perry Street happened because nobody with connections lived over there.
Old Mother Hubbard. That's all. When you keep
Right.
saying Perry Street, I think of Old Mother Hubbard. That's
But
what
that's
that
where all
was.
those, it was old
Yeah.
Mother Hubbard, and they created they're beautiful condos.
Yeah.
There's just too many of them. And those and they're still paying their mortgages. They're going to be paying mortgages there until the sun burns out, and there's not enough parking.
And I think that's what people will say is people buy them knowing. I said to one of the people who said that to me, I said, look, when you need housing, that's the last thing you're looking at. You're looking at, okay, can I
How do I
afford
get
to
it?
live
Yeah.
in this place? You're not looking at all the other tangible things. You're just trying to survive. And I think that's when you see buildings like that going up. And if it has the affordable housing piece to it, I still don't believe in affordable housing. I believe in affordable home ownership. I think we should bring people back into the mix, which would create generational wealth, which would create a lot of different things. I don't know about affordable housing on actually, okay, it gives you a place to live, but you're not getting any generational wealth.
Well,
And
what I'm trying to
you're
convince
paying someone else the money.
elected officials is to insist that we teach in schools how to make our kids rich. Oh, they need math, they need this. No, if you're rich, there's a lot of problems that go away instantly. So we need to teach every child investing, how to make money investing, turn them all into a bunch of little perfect investors, okay? And that all of our problems, if everybody in Lowell had, how much problem did they have in Lexington? They have a lot of problems in Lexington?
For money?
Yeah. What kind of problems do they have in Lexington?
They don't have that type, no.
Why? They're rich. I think they're the second richest community in the state.
And I think that a lot of it is.
And God bless them. I'm glad they are.
I think generational wealth is a major piece, and how do you get that driver? Because
It's a learnable skill. A guy by the name of Dr. Bill Johnson. He works over to UMass. He makes time to come and visit us once a month. He's fantastic. And it's a learnable skill. We need to teach our kids how to be rich.
There's no question it's a learnable skill. And I think generational wealth is what helps a lot of people get to that point. But
Hey, we're going to go to break for like 30 seconds. We'll be back. It's 18 degrees out, so you need to drive little Eric or little Hillary to school today. Thanks. It's a learnable skill. We need to teach our kids how to be rich.
and I think generational wealth is what helps a lot of people get to that
Welcome to the 7 o'clock hour of City Life. My name is HILLARI WENNERSTROM. I'm filling in for my friend Linda Bown, who's a little under the weather today. And joining me is Lowell City Councilor ERIK GITSCHIER and our producer John McDonough. Always nice to get up on a chilly morning. Thanks for reminding me how cold it was as I pulled out of my garage. I had a false sense of hope when I turned my car on and it said, 32 degrees. I thought it might be a little warm out, but
18 degrees outside the house right now, and the wind is blowing just a little bit. That poor little doggy going down the street. That'll be a short walk, I think.
hopefully. Yes, I had a little doggy that apparently at midnight decided he needed to go out. So I was up at midnight with one of my little dogs. And then, of course, I couldn't get back to sleep because I had that burst of cold air in my face when I opened the door to let him out. But,
I don't think the winters are as bad as they were when we were children.
I think we've been spoiled the last few years of not I think they said it's been like 5 or 6 years since we've had this amount of snow and this cold weather and kind of, it's been a while, so we're not used to it.
And maybe that's what the communities did. They got a little bit lax in their plowing. They got kind of cocky with it and didn't really think
Yeah.
that they were going to get to the stage we're at now. But when you look, we're supposed to get like a mix tonight into tomorrow, right? And then again on Saturday into Sunday, we're going to get more, right?
There was a few years, and I don't remember how many back, but they had said it, that, we had a lot of the bulk of the storms on the weekends, which again causes an issue because of overtime and all of that. So I can't wait to see how the snow and ice deficit piles up as we move through 6 more weeks of winter. I guess I'll ask the two of you, when they say 6 more weeks of winter, is it 6 more weeks from Groundhog Day, or is it 6 more weeks from winter technically ends so that we could be, May or June before we hit the...
I'll give you that political answer. I'm not sure.
Let me
I
get
love
back
that.
to you. Let me get back to you, and then you'll never get a phone call. John gets that a lot here. People say to him, "Hey, let me get back to you,"
Yep.
and he doesn't get the phone call. That's what that means.
So,
They never call.
I just, when that came across last weekend, I thought, okay, I'm trying to figure this out. 6 more weeks from today or 6 more weeks from when we actually hit spring that we're going to have of winter. Because it sure feels like it could go on indefinitely.
When we talk about winter, we talk obviously about heating bills and stuff like that. And when you look at people's gas bills in the last month, they've doubled or tripled for a lot of people. And then, we say there's no gouging. And I wonder what the Department of Public Utilities actually does down at the State House.
I have felt that, and I'm hoping to get relief as my 20-year furnace on the coldest day. I think I was actually here with the negative 18 or whatever it was, my furnace died, and so I had to put a new one in. And supposedly I've put in a high energy efficient and
That's all you can get these days.
better use system that I'm supposedly bound to save hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is going to pay for the system that I installed.
That just means it's going to break down earlier. The life expectancy is not as long as the old stuff, and it's not as efficient. But
It was one of those, and it was one of those things where it was like, well, you can fix it for this amount of money. No guarantee it's going to last. You can replace it, and oh, by the way, it's connected to your air conditioning unit, and your air conditioning unit looks a little rough, so you might want to consider replacing that now before you need it. Next thing I know, I'm into a whole new heating and cooling system, and
Well, do you believe that, see, there's no law against it, but I suspect when you buy an appliance, the chip in there says, you will break this day, this time.
well, so my house
And
is,
there's no law against it. You're buying a device that says, okay, your brand spanking new furnace, it's gonna last. How long you want it to last for, boss? Oh, give her 8 years. So 8 years and 2 days, the
Well,
chip
that's-
says, die.
that's what I'm feeling like. I have a 26-year-old house, and, in the past kind of 5 years, everything was guaranteed for about 20 years, all the major systems in the house, the roof. I've got a new roof on my house, I've got a new hot water heater, I've just put in a whole new heating and cooling system, so, really,
just when you feel like you're starting to pay down the equity
Yeah.
in the house and you're getting close to that, and it goes bang right back up.
so in the past 5 years, I've, any amount of money my house jumped up in value in the
Value
last
is-
5 years, I have reinvested it right back into making it a better home, which is just, again, going to now tax me because apparently I have all these efficient things. They're going to assess my taxes more because my house is worth more.
The trades kids love you.
It's-
That's the thing about all of that is those trades kids are starting, I think there's a higher value going to the trades right now than ever before. And when you look at it, I was just talking to one of them the other day. They're going out on co-op at $28 an hour. And I'm like, you're making $28 an hour to go out on co-op? Congratulations. And she was like, yeah. And they're giving me this, and this. So I think that the trades, the value from
Yeah.
all of these things now is starting to, you're looking at the high cost of higher education. You're looking at the brainwashing that's happening to people. People don't want to talk about politics. They're tired of people going back and forth about, I like Trump, I like this one, no one even cares anymore. They just want to see efficiencies.
Yeah.
And when you look at the kids, I think that the parents now are at the stage where they're accepting the kids not going to college and going out into the work world and earning the living that way because they know that they're going to put their kid in debt in the hundreds of thousands of dollars if they go off to college, and there's no guarantee that that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is there. So there's a balance on every child that parents have to look at, and I think it's interesting to watch how the pendulum's swinging. When I was a kid and we went to Greater Lowell, they told us that that's where the dumb kids went. That's where you went if you weren't smart and you went out there. But I hate to tell them who's laughing now. All those kids that worked hard and they pressed and they were never what the stigma was put on them. But now I'm seeing the people who are calling us that send their children out there. And I always say the same thing, wow, remember when you were a kid and you called me this? Yeah. This is interesting. And they just laugh. But
Eric, out at the Voc, you guys have discipline, and Liam Skinner's working in a different direction than other superintendents. Discipline's coming back to the Lowell school system. It's just remarkable. It's good.
he's got a challenge because, you're hearing rumblings that, people are just challenging him to just challenge him rather than,
Because he won't hire their friends.
yeah,
Hey, what about my sister? You're going to give her a job?
which he shouldn't. If he really wants to be a successful leader, he has
He
to
worked
hire
at Radio
people.
Shack.
Yeah, he has to hire people who are going to make him successful. And if that's your friend, great. If it's not your friend, bye.
He's got the school committee bosses, got to make them happy. You don't have to make the public happy. You have to make the school committee happy. And they just want their friends hired.
Yeah, but I would think in the end, I would agree with you in many ways on that, but one would think in the end that the greatest gratification would be giving these kids the education that they need and putting them forth into the world is with the tools to succeed. And I think that is where I always looked at Lamb Skinner as, I may not like what someone has to say, but I honestly always thought that Lamb Skinner was a person who put what he thought was in the best interest of the students first. And that's why I think that his school was the #1 in the city for many years. I'm not sure where the ranking is now, but that's what makes him so successful. And he's the type of person you need to run our school system.
I got a lot of faith in Liam. We'll see if he can keep it off the ground. I think it's going in a good direction. Because the attitude of the Rogers School across the street has changed completely. Complete turnaround. This is from earlier, I just checked YouTube, and this is from Corey from earlier. Good morning, everyone. The unintended consequences of the housing first approach is causing hardships for property owners. Thank you, Corey. Sorry I missed your text earlier. Back over to you guys.
Yeah, and I would agree with him. I think that we have to look at each situation and say, look, is this going to work in this neighborhood? Because as
Well, that
Councilor
used to
Robinson
be
outlines.
kind of the first litmus test when things came before the planning board or zoning was, is it harmonious to the neighborhood, right? That was always the #1 question. How does this fit in to the neighborhood it's going? That now is like an afterthought, if at all, right? It's not something that people ask anymore, when it used to be, 15 years ago, the first thing we asked. So that, we've really been kind of, hands are tied with, again, all of these, zoning things that have come up or things that, have kind of taken over.
John has made an interesting statement when he said, just move to New Hampshire, and when you say that, if something doesn't go your way, do you take your ball and bat and go home? That's the whole question. And I think that we've seen that in neighborhoods where people just up and moved, good people who were long time committed to the community, and now when you get fresh people in, you're trying to get them back into the community atmosphere, but a lot of people today don't want anything to do with it. They just are moving along at the pace of survival rather than getting back into the community, which is a tough thing because then that inflates the special interest people. Once their numbers go up, it's easy to not elect people who are against their way of life. And that's what goes on. And you can see it. You can see it in our community. The districts versus at-large council. I like the districts, but I think that once you get in, if you represent your district the way that they want to, you'll be in there forever. And I do think that it's a good thing because your district is saying, I like this person at the table for me, and we're getting things done. Like Centerville, and you look at the improvements over there, you look at the improvements, Pawtuckettville, you look at, Belvedere, you look at the opera money South Lowell, you look at the opera money that got taken over and how it was divided into each district, where before it was always swayed towards where the popular people were. Now it's a little bit different. So I think, sewer separation in Centerville is amazing right now. Yes, it's going to be a very, very big inconvenience for a lot of people for a good 5 years, but when it's done, that separation is going to make their quality of life just that much better, because now the water is going to go back into the conservation areas, back into the river. All that runoff water is going to go to areas rather than the treatment plant. So it's interesting to watch how everything has unfolded through the years.
Yeah, I mean, as an outsider looking in, it seemed there was a few things on that, the way the districts were divided, and again, not having congruent school districts with council districts or things like that made it look a little, wonky from somebody on the outside looking in. But it seems like it's done well for the city and voted well in terms of how people have been elected.
I agree with you on the school side. There should be the same number of school committee members as there are city councils, and it should be the same districts. I don't know why there's 2-to-1 in that setup, but I don't know how that meets the minority settings and districts and stuff, but the way it does on the city council side. I would have loved to have seen it broken up into 8 districts and 3 at large for the school committee, and then watch it work.
So does the school committee have any at large seats?
2.
2.
So there's, 2 at large.
So, Eric, I want to thank you for doing it. Good stuff, thank you.
John doesn't have a doctor's appointment within the next week.
I can't believe he left them over there for an hour and 16 minutes and didn't touch any of them.
Second hour,
I'm just shocked.
second hour. I used to have one in each hour, but now just second hour. Thank you.
When I see something I like, if you put like the M&Ms on your counter out there, I saw them when I walked by and I'm like, geez, look at that. John's an M&Ms guy.
Those are new M&Ms. They're peanut butter and jelly M&Ms.
Peanut butter and jelly M&Ms.
So watch for them at Market Basket.
I'm
You'll see
not
them
sure
there.
I would take a liking to those.
Butter and jelly and chocolate.
I'll be right back.
There's some things, that just don't belong together. And I'm a fan of peanut M&Ms. Okay with peanut butter M&Ms. I don't know that I want a jelly in an M&M with chocolate. I don't know that I want chocolate and jelly. That's just, my personal
He's going to try to get you to try this now. You know that, right?
Well,
That's where he
yeah.
wanted to go get the M&Ms. Only I can get an M&M conversation going.
He's going to get them. It might be a little too early for me to eat M&Ms.
You just brush your teeth and you're in M&Ms quick.
I try to balance my candy intake down.
And we, last night, Councilor Robinson and myself had got a motion.
I just thought they were regular peanut M&Ms when we walked by.
That's what I thought too, because they're in the yellow package. That's not right. That's false
Oh, it's
advertising.
not? See, it's not as
Oh, it's a
yellow as
little
we
dark.
thought. All right, here we go. Give them the official review. You gotta try
Oh,
one,
no,
too.
thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, you gotta try one. Come on, Eric.
Eric, try it.
I just ate before I came here.
No, don't
So
try
what?
it. You're okay. Don't try it.
They're lousy?
Was it supposed to be grape jelly? It says artificial, doesn't even tell you what the jelly
Everything's
flavor is.
artificial. They're M&Ms.
Came from some scientist lab, and he's like, yeah,
I love
we're going
them.
to call this jelly.
So, Eric, you don't do snacks?
Yeah, I eat M&Ms every day.
You eat them every
Well, you
day.
better
Every
take
day.
one for the road, because I'll be interested to see if you,
Okay, I'm surprised you don't want
what
to try it.
flavor of jelly do you think that M&M is? Grape?
I think it's red jelly.
I only eat junk food, John. It's a bad
That's
habit.
junk food.
That,
Straight junk food.
so red jelly, but red jelly could be strawberry, raspberry.
I found them tasty. And then
Yeah,
over Christmas,
I know.
I found, somebody gave me a Christmas present, was
You're gonna
popcorn,
try one.
candy cane popcorn, and it
It's
was
crazy.
outstandingly delicious. I didn't think I thought, oh, candy cane, I don't like candy cane. Candy cane popcorn, oh, nice stuff.
You're the Mikey likes
You know,
it
it's
guy.
kind of like, when when Jelly Bellies came out and they had like the popcorn flavor and all that, and you put it in and you're like, the texture's not quite right. I like popcorn, but no popcorn flavored jelly beans.
He is. He's the Mikey likes it guy.
No, I don't. I'll be interested to see.
Mapo. No, Mapo. I don't know if they still have Mapo.
They don't make Necco wafers around here anymore either. Those things were the nastiest
Chalkboard.
things on the planet. My
still
mother,
have
rest
those.
in
Necco
peace,
wafers?
love those. But they're not made around here anymore, right? They sold the company. It used to be out of like Everett or Revere, and
Because one of my sister-in-law, she loves them.
my mother,
She
rest in
gets
peace,
Necco
loved
wafers
them,
all the
and I
time.
thought they were like,
Eating the chalkboard.
yeah.
I thought that they were made where they make the Sky Bars.
Oh, maybe they're just not locally sold,
'Cause
like
Sky Bars, I love Sky Bars.
local company anymore.
Are you doing your ads? Is that what that thing is about?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
it's-
Oh.
I'm supposed to put up
It's ad time.
announcements, but I
Oh.
don't really have that many. I'll do the
Well,
what's for lunch at the senior center.
We're
That's my
doing
You better
a
try one of
walkthrough at the high school for the city council
Well, how's that
this
go?
weekend.
How's your high school going?
It's an interesting project. We'll wait till
do
John's
you-
done and we can talk about
I
it.
still think you're building a sick building over there because the windows don't open.
If it's not maintained, you're 100% right. I would agree with you.
Well, maintenance, we don't know what that is at Lowell because we hire our friend. She worked at Radio Shack.
What do you have against Radio Shack?
I don't, but that's a qualification
defunct.
to
You
run
can-
to run a department. Do you know how to work computers? Yeah, I ran the cash register at Radio Shack. Now today is February 12th. Chicken teriyaki over at the Lowell Senior Center. Lowell Senior Center is proud to serve lunch 7 days a week. The
Wow.
lunch is free. You can have the lunch for free. They'd like to get $2 out of you, so if you're as affluent as myself, you go in there and you give the front door, you give a woman, her name's Tara, nice gal. Oh, Hoey's gonna call. I'll put him on the air in a second.
It's affluent.
Bobby, you wanna talk?
So-
He hung up. Okay. Must have been a butt dial. But senior center, 7 days a week they have lunch, $2, a great thing. So Sunday morning, Saturday, you go in any day you want. Can't go Monday, we're closed. But every other day, I guess Bob wants to talk. So I'll go back to you guys. Thanks.
So one of the interesting
Hey,
things
Bob,
that
you want to talk?
had come up, Hillary, was the governors may propose a cut to the Boys and Girls Club project that it was down there. So the city council,
So
council,
an existing funded project, the governor's now,
right, is back looking at cutting
back.
the funds.
Got it.
So, and one of them is to a $5 million and a $2 million. So it's $7 million in investments to build an addition that they already procured funding for and everything. So we had the manager write on behalf of the council a letter to the state trying to make sure that those funds are still there.
the batteries went out on it, but.
Here's Bobby Hoey.
Good morning, Bob.
Good morning.
Go ahead, Bobby. Looks like I ended him. accept. So what's
Yeah.
on again, Bob?
Yeah, I'm there.
Go ahead, you're on, buddy.
Well, you know I'm going to call in when Eric's on the show, that's for sure.
And I thought you were calling to say hi to me.
Well, no, Hillary, I already shared your show, kid, so you might be the #1 show of the week because this guy that's sitting next to you is unbelievable. I have a quick question for you, Eric. My whole walkway, which is over 100 feet long, a city walkway, is all concrete. And recently the mailman put ice hazard on my mail. He wrote it right on my mail. I do have ice melt. I like using rock salt, but on my cement walkway, I don't think it's a good idea. And right now, it seems like there's a big shortage on rock salt. I don't know if the city's having the same issue, but yeah, so I'm doing the best I can to try to keep the ice from on my sidewalk. But this has been an incredible year, and I think we got more ice to come tonight. So, do you have any recommendations? Because the ice melt doesn't work as good as the rock salt for me.
I think that you're going to have to use the rock salt at the beginning, Bob, and then shovel it off, and then go back to your bag salt once it starts seeing the reaction, because it will, like you said, eat right through it, because that's the product. But if your concrete sidewalk was done right, you shouldn't get those imperfections afterwards. But if you let it sit there, that's what's going to happen, is it eats in. But just don't let it sit there. Once you see the reaction and the breaking point, just get it off quick.
Okay, so thanks for that. But now going back to your show, I know you're ready to talk about the high school. For years, I tried to mention things about the high school and maintenance of 28 schools at that time. And we have a building department called Lands and Buildings. I believe that's under the city's control. And I always felt that they just weren't big enough, you know. And when I hear you and Corey Robinson talk about getting a group of people that can do it, not only do we have 28 schools, we have a lot of city buildings that need maintenance, and we're not up to snuff on it, and you know that. So I'm hoping to hear you talking about the high school. So Hillary, I'm glad you got the show today, kid. You might beat Linda, because I'm always trying to beat Linda, but John constantly gives Linda the ERIK Gittschiers, the Lee Gittschiers, you know. So
Well, when you come in next, make sure that John shares his peanut butter and jelly M&Ms with you.
listen, I get a lot of snacks out of the McDonough's, believe me, okay? All right. So hey, have a good day. Okay?
Take care. Thanks for
Thanks,
calling.
Bob.
All right. Bye-bye.
Right. Yeah, I think that, over the last 3 years, we've been trying to push that high school project. The high school's an extremely large building, not to have maintenance staff on site.
So, agreed. So when we're building a new middle school, and I get that it was the political forces maybe that forced you into rehab, but, there were a lot of people that said just rehab your current building, and that, the age of the building, the lack of kind of ongoing maintenance, we knew that rehabbing that building was just going to be a disaster. And so I'm just curious, in hindsight, if anybody's saying, you know what, rehabbing that building.
People are going to say that. I mean, because they haven't seen a new building project also. Some new building projects can be a disaster also, and we've seen that in Newton North, some of the issues that went on when they built that. So there are issues in all kinds of trades, all kinds of building. Restrictions in a renovation are major issues, right? Because
Yeah.
if you want to change an old building and then try to get it up to date with the new heating and air conditioning, sometimes the ductwork doesn't fit in the areas that are designed. You got to drop ceilings. You got to do a lot of things. There's a lot of more moving pieces in that have to be looked at, and slip-ups are probably a lot easier on that end because an architect can just go out and throw a building together. A new one, so much easier. Quality of building, I don't think you'll ever see a building that has the quality exterior walls that you see of the old buildings. Like we just put modulars on, and they're getting ready to go online, and we're nitpicking everything right now to say, look, this isn't right, that's not square, this needs to be done. So the challenge is before us.
Yeah.
People spoke, this is where the money is, that's the challenge that's before us. We can fight about the past, and we will, because we're Lowell. We like to we're still fighting about the
habits die hard.
1956 Lawrence Lowell football game we're still fighting about. So that's what, it's interesting to watch. John's age group is still fighting about the Keith versus Lowell High baseball game from, 1967. But when
No, we're mostly moving to Florida.
yeah. And that's but I think that your age group has really transferred a lot of the generational wealth down to the next generation in Lowell. You see a lot of people like your sons, they stay here because of the generational wealth that you provide for them and the environment you provide for them. You go off and you come back and forth, or you stay down in Florida. I have friends whose parents are doing that now, and it's an interesting watch, but they stayed. The high school project is interesting to me because we talk about, it was done in 4 stages, 4 phases. So the first phase was the gym area, and it was done 2.5 years ago. So we'll talk about bleachers issues. So the bleachers get put online, and the question is, bleachers in any school have to be inspected once a year. Now, the bleachers started to have problems, but I don't believe, and this is just my opinion, that they were ever inspected during those
I was
periods
going
of
to say,
time.
how did it take 2.5 years to discover there were problems with the bleachers?
Exactly. And it ripped the floor and did this and that. And then they said there was a part missing. Well, if they were inspected it the first 2 times, because basically Hussey is the only one who does the inspections, and they did this inspection in December or the bill was December of this year, and they realized, oh, there's a issue here.
Who's Hussey?
It's a group that does inspections and bleacher repairs. They're out of, I believe it's Maine they come
Now,
from.
do they get direction?
What do you mean?
Well, they haven't done it apparently in 2 years, though.
Go up
right?
on my
From the
roof,
installation.
Mr. Roof Inspector, go up on my roof and find no problems.
Oh, I would doubt that was ever I just don't think the call was made. I don't think the call was made. I don't give them instructions when they come to ours. I'm like, okay, go get the bleachers and tell me what's right or wrong. It means nothing to me. I'm just the middle person who has to make the adjustment. I don't really, I do care that something's broken, but I'm just the person who has to solve the issue at the end. So you come in, John, and you inspect my car and tell me it needs brakes. Well, it's up to you whether you're going to put the brakes in or not. That's it's on you. I told you your brake pads are down, and if you want to wear out your rotors, here's your car back. And I think the city wears out their rotors a lot. We looked at, there's not a maintenance person in that building for 2.5 years, just that phase. There has to be maintenance done in that 2.5 years, or what was
Why do employees hate working there that they quit?
Because the resources aren't there. The train of thought, the direction is not there. You're left on your own, and then people point out the failures without giving you the resources to do something. So if you're any type of skill set, you're like, I'm not doing this anymore. You send me over there to replace something, when if I just would have went over there and you said, okay, I want this maintained, it wouldn't be as involved.
This fancy book you just let me have a look at, okay?
Yeah.
I look at this beautiful facility here. Well, this button over here, go over to this guy. A beautiful,
Why do you tell me?
absolutely exquisite garage that you have over the wastewater utility. Why do we have separate places to get stuff fixed?
So that's the water department. Okay, but
Yeah.
what I didn't hear your question.
Just answer it. Say city life, that's all.
Mark. Come on,
I didn't
Mark.
hear it. I didn't hear your question, John.
No, it's Hillary. John's left his phone on
Why do
the
we have so many
table.
maintenance facilities? We have,
How are you?
the cops have their own garage,
you wanna
DPW
talk
has
to
their own
John?
garage, wastewater utility has their own garage. We don't have enough people power to fix the stuff we have. Why don't we just have one garage
Oh,
where
sure.
everything
Hold on, we'll
goes?
get John.
So
We good?
It's our friend Mark Kratman who wanted to talk about facilities in Tewksbury, the land of Oz. So good
Okay, yeah.
morning. Good morning,
good morning, Mark.
Thanks for calling in.
Understand all the difficulties everybody's having in their communities, but I just want to talk about one thing that we did at occupancy, which, everyone talks about the hiring, and, you're hiring this one, you're hiring that one, but I want to talk about, like, one of the best hires we've had. Like, we hired somebody in our town and he's in charge of all facilities. And what we did is we put him in charge of every building, not just town buildings. He's in charge of, he goes and inspects the police station, the fire station, the school department, water department, the DPW. So he goes and checks the heating systems, the roofs, the windows, the things, and gives a report of what needs to be maintained, what needs to be scheduled to be maintained, what needs to be replaced, what's on a 5-year plan, what needs to be done. And, we had issues where people were always complaining that, why did the windows get so bad that you need to totally replace them? Or why did a roof get to the point where, why didn't somebody maintain it? Why didn't you find it? Why did the boiler go in the school when this happened to take so long? And we have somebody that goes through and inspects every aspect of our town, which I think is wonderful that works. And just having somebody that has the expertise to look at what's needed and goes through building after building after building, and then we don't have those problems of, unexpected, like the heating system went at the senior center or something went else in another building. Having a department that's able to oversee all facilities that are owned by the residents, I think is something I'd love to see every town try to do that.
Yeah, the community of Lexington has their own facilities department. It basically is a mirror image of their DPW. So they have a facilities department and they have a DPW. Now, the facilities department is in charge of looking at, in Lowell, we do this with our DPD, which is ridiculous, but the facilities department is in charge of sending out applications for MSBA projects and giving all that information and applying, and they have an OPM in there, so they don't have to hire OPMs on big projects. Which he has a general contractor license, so when you hit that threshold of over 50 grand mark, it falls within. And then when you start looking at, like you just said, one person that runs around, well, they have it broken down the same way as they have a person for so many schools that goes around and does the same thing. In Lowell, what they do is they have the school department senior custodian report all problems to the DPW, which makes absolutely no sense. Like elevator issues last night, they kind of tried to push off as, well, if the senior custodian put in for the issue, then it would be resolved. And to me, that's like asking, someone who outside of their purview to do something. You should be over there checking it. And the number to you should be provided to the secretary at the school, so when they get the complaint, the secretary just picks up the phone and calls you, not a senior custodian. So there's a role reversal here, and there's a power play, because the school department is in control of the custodians, and the city's in control of the maintenance. But the city owns the buildings. So cleanliness of the schools can be whatever it is, because the city doesn't really have much of a say.
The only way we were able to do it is to get in the buy-in of all the departments.
Right.
So it's like, we met with the superintendent of schools and say, listen, we're not trying to tell you what to do. They have their own facilities group, they do their own maintenance, they do their own things, but we have one person that goes around that's in charge of the town, that everything that's owned by the town. So, the taxpayer is paid for the school, taxpayer is paid for the police department, taxpayer is paid for the fire department, and the facilities people go around, they do the inspections on things either annually or semi-annually, depending on the age of it. If something's brand new, obviously it doesn't have to we don't have to look at the roof, if something was just built. But, aging infrastructure, looking at what's out there, having a plan and not having like a surprise show up on you, like, oh, this is ready to go and now we need to spend, $500,000 or $2 million to replace something, and doing the care and maintenance of that, and just knowing what needs to be taken care of, having a report that, this was inspected, it needs to be, serviced, it needs to be, what's the lifespan on that piece of, equipment, is the heating system, getting to the end of its life, are we planning to replacement, having all those things and just not being shocked by a cost is something that I think is, very helpful. And all the departments, to their credit, have bought in because they know that they're going to have, a good roof over them. They're going to have good windows on them. And, they trust the person that's doing the inspections, that's looking out to make sure the facility runs properly.
We have a thing in Lowell that is called the Hatfields and McCoys. So one side is the school department, the other side is the city department, and there is no common ground when it comes to the environment. And if we can just get the common ground, guys, you're here to work for the environment for learning, to try to get kids the best environment to learn, to give the educators the best environment to teach within. If we could just get that common ground, it would be a home run, and that's what we're pushing for. The high school is over 650,000 square feet, and we don't have one maintenance person in the building. We have a senior custodian, but their job is to cleanliness of the school, not for repairs of broken stalls and toilets overflowing, or, if the electricity goes out, to reset the breaker and understand if the breaker keeps popping, not to keep doing that, and diagnose the issues. In real time, Mark. What they do now is they just call Lands and Buildings, but Lands and Buildings could be out at the Rogers School working on an electrical issue. Now, they can't get over to you right now because they got some portion of that school done, so that there's no immediate need for a 650,000 square foot building, which to me is insane. When we had over one of the cold spells, we had one of the sprinklers pop in the auto body section. They called, and within 7 minutes, it was shut off and vacuumed up with the Kivax and everything, and back in line. Now, if that happens down at the high school, who knows where those shutoffs are? Who's going to get this thing under control? Is it going to cost millions of dollars, or is it going to cost you a couple $100s? And I think that's where the reaction time comes in that justifies the budgeting for these employees. If, again, Mark, and this goes to John's Radio Shack thing, if you hire competent people and hold them accountable.
Well, and I would argue, that there's a big difference between the custodian whose job is to keep the building clean and running, and someone who's there to maintain the building system-wise. It's somewhat a different skill set.
Don't forget, you got the union line across.
Right.
Don't move that ladder, that's a union ladder.
That's a big issue, and I think it's a big issue in a lot of communities, and we all know that in the early 2000s and maybe a little beyond that maintenance to any public building was deferred because we used it for salaries, we used it to do a lot of other things. We didn't use it, I would say, appropriately to maintain our buildings overall, and now we're paying the piper.
One of the strengths.
One of the things that we do is we have a weekly meeting where the town manager has all departments come to a weekly meeting at the town hall. And it's just the town manager and all the departments. So he has the superintendent of schools, he has the principal, he has the police chief, fire chief, everybody comes in, council on aging director, all department heads come in to a weekly meeting. They have things, and the head of facilities is sitting at that meeting. And so if there's something that's going on, there's something that's, having a discussion about, budgetary things, how we're planning our budget for this year, what's needed in the community, any problems that we have ongoing. So everybody gets to talk with each other and, get the buy-in. It's like the working hand in hand, working together, and try to take away that, we're doing it for the best of the community, and, it's just, we don't really have that, it's like, this is my corner of the sandbox kind of thing, and that's why you have to get the buy-in of, listen, we're going to work with, if the police department wants something, we always give it to them. If the fire department needs something, we give it to them. If the schools always need something, we give it to them, to service, because we want to do it. But as part of that, we want to make sure that everybody's working to say, hey, listen, this is a priority this year. This is what somebody needs. It's like something, the roof's going on this building, so we got to cut back a little bit over here because we got to take care of this year. Next year, maybe something that you may need, something with things, and have them all working together to make sure that, it's for the best of the community. That's the goal. And having those internal meetings, dragging them in and having them sitting in our same room is something I think that makes it a lot easier to get them to do the buy-in.
I think that you in Tewksbury had probably one of the best town managers in Richard Montori.
We're not a city yet. We're not a
Yeah.
city. We're town.
You're getting close. You're getting close. But town manager Montori was an innovator and just one of the premier people in that industry, and it was sad to see him retire. But when you look at Lowell, I think we do have a unique situation right now. The custodial union is under Paul George's, who is the teachers' union. So there should be common ground to the facilities side if he wants the best environment. And he's reached out to me when I first got elected before and asked about how do we fix these facilities so that we have an environment that is conducive to learning and also for the educators. And for 3 years, we've pushed this. And I do think he'll come to the table, and I think the manager can put something together because of that common ground of the teachers and the learning environment, and he's been asking for it for as long as he's been the president of that union. So hopefully we can get everybody to that table and say, look, we're trying to do what's the best interest of everybody. We pay each person an exorbitant amount. What do we need to make this happen? 28 schools, multiple city buildings. You're talking almost 50 buildings altogether that are maintained or overseen by the city, and you have under 15 people at a Lands and Buildings. It can't run this way. You should have 4 people dedicated just to that high school for these purposes, because, as you know, Mark, a whiteboard might need to be moved over to the other side of the room. Some teacher may not like her desk in an area. Those are the little things that give them that learning environment that makes the classroom a much better place to be. And I just think that when we look back at some of these savings that would happen, and we'll never really realize those savings, because if you prevent an accident from happening, no one's going to pat you on the back. But we all know that a sprinkler head, when it breaks, usually takes longer than 7 minutes to get shut off. So it's just...
I can just tell you, Eric, is just prior to us doing this years ago, and the guy that we have is Vinny Bomel, and it's like, he's awesome. He just really is. And I remember getting calls. It's like, oh, we got a water main break. We got a water break. A pipe burst in the wall down at the senior center, and a section of it shut off, and things like that. And the school, we have a problem where something froze up. Same sort of thing. It's just like what was done. The heat. The boiler's not working at the senior center. We had to shut it down today because this isn't happening, and things. We haven't had any of those. I can't remember. I mean, you're always going to have the astronaut, like if something happens and temperatures will stay at, -5 for a week or two, you're going to have something that does. But like they go around, they check, they find out what the problems are. They insulate. They find they run water in some place where it may not have been used for a while. It's just like if we have the rec center and nobody's down there, because it's all summer programs, somebody's down there looking at it, making sure that it's just not. We don't return in March and the pipes are burst. They go around, they check everything. But like I said, you got to get the buy-in. So he's not just the one person who does it. He works with each department head to say this is what it is. There's maintenance people in all the buildings, but it's just like we're here to work with you to make sure everything's functioning properly. And what do you need, and how do we in the end run, it's cost savings, and that's what it all comes down to.
And your testimony is important to show other communities. Look, here's the outlier. Here's how it works, and here's how we got to this point. And it's a credit to the person running your facilities that these things aren't happening, and you recognizing it. Yeah. The recognition is the best part. And when you look at all of the things put together, I think if we do this right, we'll have the same results as you, and hopefully we can push forward that idea into people who this is not their background. This is not what they're comfortable with. They're not comfortable with setting aside these monies. They'd rather spend it in emergency monies than they would in maintenance monies. So there's a back play to all this. It's easier to get emergency funding than it is the other. But
there has to be a starting point. You have to be starting, hey, listen, here's an idea. In March or April, when everything's quieting down and the schools are getting ready to empty out, and it's not that we're not dealing with we're not running around because everything's crazy. It's like you pick up a point, you bring everyone together and say, hey, listen, here's the plan, and this is what we want to do, and I want to introduce you to this person, and we're going to work together to make this happen. And getting everybody to do the buy-in. And honestly, I mean, I've met most cities and towns. You know, you get police chiefs, fire chiefs, everybody around, superintendents. They're all in this for the betterment of the community. So it's, you know, a lot of people think it's like, you know, that, oh, no one's going to give up this. They're willing to do it if it's going to make their place that much better. If somebody's going to come in and look, just make sure that their facility is running properly, they'll buy in a heartbeat. It's just, you just got to get them and just tell them, explain, you know, this person's not here to oversee you. They're here to assist you, and they're here to make sure everything's running properly. And, you know, why wouldn't you take that, you know, institutional knowledge of somebody that's going to go around and make sure that your heat's working, or your windows have the proper, you know, the heat's not escaping through the windows because the seals are gone, or anything, or your boiler's not going to go, or a pipe's not going to burst. And, you know, those are the things that you have an annual inspection, you have what to expect, and then we can put our budgets together year after year, because we know, all right, you know, 5 years down the road, this thing's at its end of its life. Let's just start planning now, instead of all of a sudden going to taxpayers and say, oh, we got an unexpected thing, we need $20 million to do this, or, you know, whatever it may be. You know, it's you plan. You know what the life expectancy of things are, and then you know, put it in the future budgets, and then you go, okay, this department needs this department needs that, instead of all the departments needing something in the same year, and then all of a sudden you're trying to figure out how you're going to do it.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Mark, well, thank you for the call.
Yes.
Well, nice talking to you guys. Great
Take
show.
care.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks, Mark.
Bye.
Do you want to call back Keith Rudy?
Who we got?
Keith Rudy?
Want me to
Just
call
call
him
him back, put him on speaker. Keith's pretty good.
I like this. Other people taking over the show. It's good.
Yes.
Oh, you got the phone over there. Just tell him.
Hi, Keith.
Good morning.
You're on live, so we put you right on.
Okay, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Eric, as you and I, we worked in the DPW. When we were on Broadway Street, we worked in lands and buildings, and I think we had about 40 employees. I think once we made the move over to Middlesex Street, we started not backfilling some of the aging workers who were retiring, and I think that's when the problem started. And then, you know, Eric, the thing that's bizarre to me is that 80% of our salaries in the lands and buildings are paid for under the maintenance of effort, because we work in the school department. So we either give services to the school department or we pay them money. So when we're giving them services, we're allowed to, you know, deduct the money from the services from the money that we have to pay off to the school department. So it makes no sense to me how we don't have a full staff of maintenance people. You cannot, it's impossible to take care of this amount of buildings with 15 employees. It's not going to happen. And why we didn't hire 4 employees over there back in the school department. Just so you know, Eric, they were in the school department years ago in the 70s, in the early 70s, before there was a financial crisis in the school department, and they put them over in the lands and buildings. So there was 4 employees over in the school department, high school, assigned there on a daily basis. And why we never did that, why we didn't hire them when we were putting the new school together, so that these new guys that we're hiring over there could be trained properly, knowing what they're putting in, the state-of-the-art equipment, and being trained in that type of things, Eric, because the old windows are not the old windows that we used to fix with putty and nails. We don't fix them old windows anymore. You know, so everything is different, Eric. It's all modern equipment. And these new employees that are assigned, the maintenance guys over in the high school, should have been on board already, Eric. That's my opinion. So I think we keep turning the wheel. There's no magic thing here. And as far as just, you know, I was part of the negotiations at least 3 or 4 times when we talked about putting maintenance in the school department. I don't have a problem with the custodians doing a lot of work. But you remember, there are certain works that require certifications. If a custodian is not certified, he shouldn't be touching some of the stuff that needs certification. Certain stuff, if you want to agree, I don't have a problem with changing a tile or doing something that doesn't require certain trades things. So there's certain things I agree that a custodian can do, but there's certain things I want to make sure the custodian can't do. And one thing is not taking my job. If I'm giving all my work over to custodians, that means, do I lose my job? So there are certain elements that need to be worked out, and I think they can be. I think there's an urgency there between both sides that can work stuff out, Eric. But it's appalling to me when as a guy who worked in lands and buildings, that we don't have tradesmen right now assigned to this new high school. It's bizarre.
Keith, as you know, I asked that 2.5 years ago. I asked that be put in place. But you know that when it moved to Middlesex Street, everything down there, space became territorial. Everything became, okay, I got to pull this way. It wasn't like before where you had Donald Doubleday and McGovern working together, Don McGovern. It was more territorial. And the sad part is that, like you said, what needs to happen now is a facilities department where the custodians, the maintenance staff, all report to the same people, and they're all under the same umbrella. I don't care what union they go to, as long as they report to the same person at the top. Yeah. Now, at the end of the day, like you're saying, taking people's jobs, no custodian should be responsible for anything in the maintenance side. At Greater Lowell, they're not required to do any of the maintenance side. If a toilet overflows, yes, they'll go up, they'll see if they can just do a quick little snake in and clean the floor for sanitary reasons, right? But other than that, they don't go over reset breakers, they don't touch HVAC systems, they don't do any of that. That's our maintenance guys. But they all work together and assist each other, so they've got this bond that is unbreakable. Even by management, you can't break these guys because they work day in and day out together. They know what needs to be done, and they just do it. And you know that bond. You've worked with all of us. We've all worked together. We all had that bond. Today, it's a divide and conquer and take a video of another worker and send it over.
And in today's environment, too, goes back to, if I need something, it's going to be at the cost of somebody else. And
Right.
so it automatically puts that someone else on the defensive. And it really shouldn't be. It should be what is best for everyone.
Keith was the greatest president for that union. And he pushed for equality, and he pushed to do the right things for the kids. And that's who Keith Rudy is. Today, I don't know that we have a Keith Rudy.
Eric, thank you. But Eric, you know what? And another thing, you're absolutely right, Eric. When we worked in Broadway Street, we had a building. We had 3 floors. We had place to put our equipment. We had place downstairs where we put our big saws and other equipment that we needed. You moved us into a little room over there at Middlesex Street. So I think maybe, Eric, I missed something that a sign should have been put up to me in my head and said, they're going to reduce your staff because you can't have all your equipment and all your staff working in this little room on Middlesex Street.
Right, and that's what I was getting at in the beginning, is it got really territorial where we had lands and buildings and we had 15 garages over there, we had 3 floors, we had movement. It felt like we were individuals working as a team. And at the new place, it feels like it's a divide and conquer. I call it new place, it's 1995 or whatever it was. But it's a divide and conquer setting.
But you know what? I was glad to hear that when the manager was speaking last night that, and he said it with a smile, that they are looking at putting a facilities department together. Long overdue. Why it's taking this long, I have no clue. But I wish there was somewhere, I wish I was still there, because I think I would have pushed that button a lot more, and maybe even had the guys go out for a little walk in front of City Hall just to remind people that our buildings are unsafe. They're unsafe, Eric, and it's appalling every time when I hear someone like yourself or John, Councilor Dakota, talking about, the Pawtucket Memorial over and over and over. Are you serious, people? There are young kids. There are staff working in them buildings every day. They should not be working in these buildings if these buildings are unsafe. And shame on us if we can't take care of these buildings.
No question.
I'm glad that at least we're moving forward, Eric. And I just wanted to chime in. But I wish you luck, Eric.
Keith, thank you again for everything.
Keith, you're the best. Thank you. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to blow through these announcements. Favorite meal at the senior center? I like the shepherd's pie. That's my favorite.
The one he last ate.
Wait a second. There's a whole bunch more here.
Let's see, when was Shepherd's Pie? Oh, they haven't had it in February?
Mark Crapman said good morning, but then Mark called. Just shut that alarm off. That tells me we're running out of time.
That's his warning to himself.
What's the status of the money on the Rourke Bridge? Eric, you got any tips on that?
It's up in the air, waiting for...
What's still in dreamland?
Yeah.
Still, it'll be Trump's fault if we don't get that bridge. I know that's coming.
There's no question, if he doesn't give me the 180 million.
Thanks to Councilor Gitschia for coming in today. He got more paperwork than Cliff on Monday. Hillary's doing a great job filling in for Linda. That's from Bart. Thank you, Bart. And the last text of the day is Groves Avenue is only half of a street gets plowed. Maybe Eric could help with that situation. Groves Avenue. I don't know what Groves Avenue is, but
I'll send it over.
they need your help. Thank you. Time is short, kids. You got 2 minutes.
Well, we've covered a lot of territory here this morning, and I don't even think you got through half of your paperwork.
I only bring it in case John asks a question because my memory's going, so I have to go through this stuff to remember what he's talking about.
That's a lot to remember for just one meeting, so I applaud you for your meticulous notes, and sitting here, I could see you have highlighted lots of things in it, so you're getting your money's worth and then some out of Councilor Gittschier. So with that, no more announcements. We're good on the announcements. We hope Linda's feeling better and recovering for next week, because it'll be school vacation week, so. Will
always a
will the
challenge.
council be meeting on school vacation week?
We
Are you-
do. We haven't canceled it, which was always a pet peeve of mine. And we haven't had anybody put in for it, so.
Tomorrow City Life is likely going to be on Zoom. I haven't talked to Evelyn yet, but Evelyn Thorne's going to be here, Bobby Hoey and Sam Chase. Next week, Linda has this cavalcade of people coming. Corey Belanger, Corey Robinson, and Kim Scott. That's
Nice.
next week's.
I did hear a nice comment from you on Inside Lowell. Melanie Gilbert from the Lowell Sun mentioned she has nice conversations with you. I occasionally watch the podcast or put it on in the background.
Melanie comes every other Friday.
She said, she's,
I love engaging with her because she can take it. I argue about some of the issues that she brings up, and I think that she's too hard on elected officials, and that she scares the younger crowd away.
It's nice to see she knows which exit to take to Lowell.
Well, hey, you can come sit with her any Friday. No holds barred. Anytime you want to sit with her, she'll be happy to sit with you. Say goodbye, kids. We're running out of time.
take care, everyone, and have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Thanks for coming in. Did a great job. Thanks.